And then come to Tadasana. Look down at the fronts of your ankles. Give yourself an opportunity also to bring the feet truly parallel. With the hips back enough that the weight wants to be more in the heels than the toes, relax the toes but keep them on the ground. And press down into the roots of the big toes until you feel a widening across the back of the pelvis. And then, to the degree that you need to, spiral from the inner knees to the outer hips. Yeah, Tatiana, that's really important in your body. You can do more. You can think of lifting your inner thighs up and apart a bit more. Yeah, those are straight legs. Beautiful. Okay. As you spread the sit bones and reach them down towards the backs of the knees, find a lift through your pubis and follow it to your armpits. Let the outsides of your chest move forward and up, but while keeping the floating ribs in and lifting the bones behind the ears. Send your fingers down towards your heels, and without letting the wrists move, spiral also from the inner elbows to the outer shoulders in such a way that the armpits expand a little bit within them, deepen. The collarbones widen, but the shoulder blades don't narrow. Instead, they widen, especially at the bottom tips, and gently move forward as though through the armpits towards the nipples. Lastly, keeping the floating ribs gently in, lift the bones behind the ears to float the skull higher off the spine. Not so much that the neck becomes stiff, just as little as needed. Beautiful. Follow the line of your breath a few times from your nostrils to the bottoms of your lungs. Imagine energetically the inhalations expanding like a smile in your lower back towards your kidneys. Exhalations like waves of relaxation pouring down the legs and out the feet, so that even though the lower body principles are on, they're on as little as possible, and all the joints, hips, knees, ankles, are soft. Set the intention now to move into each gesture without triggering your body fighting you. So the moment you feel an intense sensation or intense stretch, make a commitment now to not push, to just take a tiny little backing off of that. Find the breath, find the principles, and try to move through without that pressure. And with that in mind, float the arms out to heart level, keeping the hips and ribs back. Turn the armpits to face up, and inhale the arms overhead. Look down again, see the fronts of your ankles. Spread the sit bones, curl them down, and again follow that lift created in your belly to send your armpits forward and up. Turn the armpits in towards each other so the shoulders are even wider, and straighten your elbows. Yeah, Rania, good. So when you straighten your elbows, you need to turn the armpits in more, right? In order for the shoulders to relax. Good. Now start moving the bottom tips of your shoulder blades through your chest up to the sky. It's like offering your heart to the heavens on the wide platter of your upper back, the shoulder blades being the handles of that platter. Let the heart melt back into the platter as the shoulder blades move through. If your heart looks up, you can let your face look up too, and just keep the ears moving away from the shoulders. Inhale. One more breath here. What can you relax without losing the principles? Inhale. Exhale. Bend the knees, hang the head, touch the floor. With the knees bent, shift the weight forward onto the balls of the feet as much as you can while keeping the heels on the ground, and not gripping the ground with the toes. Then look towards your belly and swallow it up into your lower back, up and even forward towards the front of the room. Notice that you might have even more space now to just let gravity take your head and heart closer to your shins. Then, as you press the roots of the big toes down and lift the inner thighs away from each other, up and away from each other, let the legs unbend any amount. Rosie, you can bring your hips forward more. That's just straight up. Yeah, you got it. Even a little more if it doesn't grip your toes. And if there is now intensity anywhere in the backs of the legs, bend the knees again and try it again and again and again. The legs don't have to be straight. Just as unbent as they can be without intensity. Good. Now, sit back into a chair and reach the arms forward and up. Look down and make sure you can still see your toes. Curl the sit bones under and draw the hip points towards the navel so the belly comes off the thighs. And then you might even be able to sit farther back and down. Turn the armpits in and send the fingers farther forward and closer to each other and up to move the shoulder blades through the chest. But make sure that the floating ribs stay in. And if that arched your lower back and you lost your deep core, curl the sit bones under. Good. Nice, Peter. And then bring back the extension in the upper back. It's almost like rounding your lower back, but arching your upper back forward. And fold forward again. Uttanasana. That was really nice balancing out, Peter. Good work. Again, shift the weight forward. Relax your toes. Imagine that you're putting your heels on the ground with your sit bones through the mass of your legs, and against that downward movement of the sit bones, lift the inner thighs up and apart, just as much as does not create intense stretch in the backs of the legs. Relax your neck, move your belly through your lower back, and deflate your torso towards your shins. Nice, everyone. Walk to a downward facing dog. Feel free to walk around a little bit, shake and nod, twist and shake, whatever feels good. Make it easy. And whenever you're ready, bend the knees, look at your hands, make sure they're not turned in towards each other. Then, lift everything away from the ground. So lift the skin everywhere from your wrists, your elbows, your armpits, the front of the torso. Lift it away from the ground. Lena, that was beautiful. That's exactly it. You can really push down, Lena, but don't. Like that is actually much straighter in your body. And then hang the head too. Good. Now that everything in the front body is drawing towards the back body, turn the armpits in towards each other, but without letting the weight go to the outer hands. Lift the elbows up and away from each other so they don't hyperextend. Nice, Rania. Yeah, even more. Beautiful. And keeping the floating ribs away from the skin at the front of the torso, scoop your belly up and in. Spread your sit bones and send them down. And again, just like in the forward fold, unbend your knees by lifting the inner thighs up and apart and pressing the upper thighs back only to the point where there is still not intense stretch. And if there is, unbend and press back. Unbend and press back. And again, for Amy, keep that turning of the armpits in, that widening. Imagine like a king cobra, you're filling the back of your heart with breath. Then press the upper thighs back to deepen without pinching anything in the shoulders. Good, come to plank. You can either lower the knees or keep them up. If the knees are up, use your sit bones to press the inner heels back and down like you're trying to get them back to the back of your mat. Lift the inner thighs up and apart. Spread the sit bones, curl them under until the belly and the pubic bone move away from the ground. And then everyone, especially Peter, look down, but lift your throat into the back of your neck so the shoulder blades separate. Yes, just like that. Beautiful. Shoulder blades separate and the heart lifts in between them. Then simply, without losing any of that, move your elbows back in space and your armpits forward in space to come all the way to the floor. You can lower the knees to the ground at any point. And then lie on your belly. Good. Everyone, take your arms forward, palms together. Tuck your chin and touch your third eye to the floor. Full prostration. Touch your big toes together. Let the heels fall apart just with gravity. And begin very slowly, very gradually, to press the tops of the feet into the ground. If you don't let the heels come together, it'll be a little more outer tops of the feet, and that's good. And go only as little as you need to until you feel the kneecaps come lighter or even off the ground, but no more effort than that. Then, keeping the sit bones wide, slowly send the sit bones back and down to the knees until you feel the pubic bone become a little lighter on the ground. Nice. Then see if keeping the belly lifted, you can just keep your hands together, just lift your arms off the ground. Just the arms, just a little bit. Notice how the challenge begins to keep the back body spacious when it wants to contract. Work instead the principles of the lower body and core. If that's easy for you, keep looking down and just like in the plank, lift the throat into the back of the neck, keeping the back of the neck long. So now your arms and your head are off the ground. And then, if you can again, very gently, very attentively, also lift your chest very slowly. Notice if your back grips, come back down, try again. Use your hamstrings and your core more than your neck or your back. And you can do that again and again and again. And you can rest and do that again. But if you find that you can lift your whole torso and arms and head off the ground with a long and wide back body, through the action of the hamstrings and the core, through the actions of the legs and the belly. Now, keep pressing the outer tops of the feet into the floor, even as it becomes an imaginary floor, and you lift your legs off the ground as well. That is a lot of challenge. It may not be possible right now, but you can try. Nice, Amy. It looks like your lower back is very spacious. And I'll give you a couple of moments to just try that a few times. Come down and rest, and try it again. Come down and rest, try it again. Remember that it's not important to get to a place where you're lifting your whole upper and lower body. Maybe today it's just the arms, or just the arms and the head. Or if it's really the arms, the head, and the chest, amazing. That's already huge if you can do that without losing the spaciousness in your back. If you can do that with your hamstrings and your core. Yes, Candace. Hmm. And no matter what you've been able to achieve so far with this intention of extension in prone poses without compression of the back, give yourself acknowledgement for how much progress you've made today Good enough for today. Slowly make your way to child's pose. Move them. Just pull back from the eyes of the elbows more. Bow the elbows more. Nice, Shayna. You feel that? Yeah. Good. All right. Downward facing dog, everyone. Great work. And the mind has such a tendency to say, okay, that's over next. No, 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 no. Remember what it felt like to do principles 5 and 6 in your cobra. Do them in your down dog, and you'll notice so much more space for principle 3 to pull the upper thighs back. Kirsten, that's so beautiful. Such a long lifted line in your torso. I love it. Nice, Marlene. Good, all right. Let's step the right foot forward between the hands. Come up to warrior 2. Front knee above the ankle. Back foot, the outside of the back foot parallel with the back of your mat. So that means the back foot is slightly forward of 90 degrees. Good, yes. Now, of course, do your principles 1 and 2, 3 and 4, which should lift the arches of both feet, spin the thighs away from each other without clenching the sit bones towards each other at all, and send your sit bones down in a way that then take your hip points to your navel. Lengthen your fingertips and relax your shoulders into your armpits. Now, if your back hip is higher than your front hip, first move your back thigh, your left thigh, into its hamstring, and then sink it to your front heel. That's it. Nice, Giverny. Very level hips now. And here we go with 5 and 6. Without moving your shoulders up, float the bones behind your ears higher as you send your widening sit bones down. Your whole spine will lengthen and absorb your floating ribs. When are the floating ribs going to start to want to stick out? Reverse the warrior. Turn the front palm to face up and bend up and over. Side bend up and over. You will feel a very strong desire, probably, first of all, to unbend the front knee. So everyone, Marlene, bend the front knee forward and to the right. Good. But you'll also feel a tendency to shorten the back of the neck and the mid-back. So keep lifting the bones behind your ears. That's beautiful, Hinar. And absorb the floating ribs. Now turn your chest to the right. Turn your chest to the sky. Lift from your left shoulder blade through your chest, just like that, Marley. Yeah. Marley, if you can keep the arch of your back foot lifted, you can bend your front knee forward and to the right even more. That's it. You can even take a longer stance. Nice, everyone. Flow beautifully, slowly, as though through water, into downward facing dog. Try not to drag the front foot on the mat. Lift it, step back. If you want a child's pose before the second side, take it. If you want a plank or a chaturanga and another cobra, go ahead and take that. I'll let everybody take a moment. Meet in down dog once your breath has normalized. And then take, not now, but when you're ready, the left foot forward into warrior 2. Once you've done warrior 2 on both sides, and I'm going to leave you in silence for a moment as you do that, work through the 6 principles that we've learned on your own. Be your own teacher. Whenever you feel like it's as good as it's going to get, down dog or child's pose, and we'll move forward from there. All right, and whenever you're ready, let's meet in downward facing dog. And again, if we repeat a pose, take it as an opportunity each time to ask yourself, what has changed? What has remained the same? What have I learned in the last poses that I can bring into this one? And Brindley, I encourage you to walk your feet a little farther back. You'll notice you'll have more space for 5 and 6 as well as 3 and 4. Yeah, good. All right, and now keep hanging your head, which is like gravity's way of saying principle 5, and absorbing the whole front body into the back body as you press the upper thighs back and walk your feet forward into a standing forward fold. So think of yourself as an accordion, becoming smaller and smaller into yourself. Wawawiwa, major thunder over here in Granada. So what about this pose? Has it changed from the beginning as you, again, shift your hips forward, send your sit bones down, lift your inner thighs up and apart, swallow your belly into your upper back, swallow your upper thighs into your sit bones that move down. Send your ear bones to your toes and your shoulders apart. Has this gotten better? How about another chair pose? Sit back, reach the arms forward and up. Maybe this has gotten easier. Maybe this doesn't have to be such a difficult pose. Francis, I love the way you're pressing your knees towards each other, but they're going medial of center. I want you to keep that action, but also press them out. So think as though there's a block between them and you squeeze it. Yeah, but not narrower than the block. Good. And how about 5 and 6 here? That's Ely, that's perfect. That's exactly it. Amalia, a little more 6, and you'll find more space to open your heart with 5. Yes, armpits in. Good, Katie, straighten your arms. You can do it. Straighten your elbows. Turn your armpits in. Thank you for smiling. Relax your eyebrows. Good, and stand up. Look down. Keep your hips back, ribs in. Standing back bend. Expand your shoulder blades through your armpits to the sky. And keep your ears moving away from your shoulders and your floating ribs moving away from the skin at the front of the body. In order not to stick the hips forward, you have to use your principle 1 in order not to fall backwards. Good. Big inhale, lift even higher. Hold the breath, bring the palms together in front of the heart. Lower, open, exhale. Good. Maybe one more 4-part breath if you'd like. I see some of you are just naturally doing it. And Tadasana. We're going to move into Nattarajasana, the royal dancer pose. So find your Tadasana, take your time, don't rush to the pose, find your Tadasana. So we're going to try to keep Tadasana. As in the beginning, begin to soften the right knee so that the weight shifts onto the left foot. Bend the right knee forward and up. Grab your ankle. Good. Keep doing principle 1 in both feet. As you now begin to move your right foot back and up in space. Forget the shape. Don't try to go high. Make sure that your hips are level and squared forward. Left foot does principle 1 into the floor. Right foot does principle 1 into the sky. Yep, and like a lot of you are doing, reach your left arm forward and up, turn the armpit in like you're hitchhiking, lift your thumb. Beautiful. Now, spread your sit bones so your butt isn't clenched and curl them under. You cannot overdo pretending to round your lower back in this pose. Round your lower back. It wants to arch, round it. Good. Now, move your right armpit forward and up, and lift the bones behind your ears to look as far forward and up as you can without shortening the back of your neck. If you notice that your floating ribs are sticking into the skin at the front of your torso, pull them in. Nice, John. Lift the lower belly and allow the floating ribs. That's it. Good. And release. Shake it out. Nice work, everybody. Very advanced pose. BKS Iyengar gave it a difficulty level of 59 out of 60. It's easy to half-ass, very difficult to do well. You guys did very well from what I could see, especially those of you who kept falling out and coming back in. Second side. So you know now that this pose is going to want to crush your lower back, TL junction, and back of your neck. So you really need your principles 4, 5, and 6. On your own, teach yourself the second side. Remember not to allow your lifted knee to splay out of the midline. Keep lifting your belly and turning both thighs to the right. Yeah, to square forward in this pose. Very beautiful. So beautiful. So Eli, you can even permit your torso to move forward so that your leg can move even farther back and up. Yeah. And then undo the twist to the left of the torso. Turn it to the right so that it's squared. Oh, beautiful. You can even flex your lifted foot and reach the heel up as well as the ball of the big toe. Now I want a picture of that. That's gorgeous. And when you feel complete between the two sides, release. Shake it out. Do whatever feels good to the body. The next pose we're going to go into is Malasana, the yogic squat. So for Malasana, you can take your feet as wide apart as you need. Yeah, the closer together, the more challenging for flexibility. The wider apart and also slightly turned out can make it easier and more accessible for most of us. And just squat down. If this is impossible for you, no matter how wide and turned out you take your feet, go grab a towel, fold it long, and put it under your heels. Yep. And you can press your elbows into your inner lower legs, turn your shoulders out, broaden your collarbones, spread the sit bones and curl them under to scoop the belly, moving the hip points towards the navel to make room for the thighs to twist away from each other. This is one of those poses where principle 2 is huge. Keep spiraling from the inner knee to the outer hip. Both legs without clenching the buttocks. And now, principle 6 here is fairly easy, right? To absorb the floating ribs. But for most of us right now, you're probably feeling your shoulder blades sticking out of your back. So that's not the case for somebody like Brindley. You've got plenty of space, or Kirsten, also beautiful. Well, what's going to help create a consistent degree of flexion throughout the spine is principle 5. Yeah? Imagine there's a grapefruit between your chin and your chest. Ever so gently squeeze the grapefruit and then move the throat into the back of the neck. Widen the collarbones, and you'll notice that your shoulder blades move forward into your body a little bit, like Emily taught us to do in her anatomy class. Good. And this pose makes the standing forward fold also way easier. So go ahead and transition into the standing forward fold and enjoy all that extra space now. As you get comfortable, work through the principles as you understand them. Find an active pose, and yet one that is not so overactive. Balance all the principles with each other, but with the least effort possible. Nancy, your hips are actually forward of your ankles, so you can permit your thighs to move back more. Yep, that's it. Good. And when you're ready, bend your knees all the way down. Come to sitting. And let's sit in an easy cross-legged position. Cross the legs. Not so easy for a lot of us. I'm just going to ask you to take your knees narrower and your feet wider so that you get as close as possible to stacked chins and knees resting on your feet. Yeah, Katie, that's exactly it. Good. If you want to grab each thigh and spin it in so that your butt liberates a little bit, you don't have to move your butt wide. You can just spin your thighs in, and that gives you that principle one action. Good. And we're going to go into a very gentle twist. The first principles we're going to keep in mind, aside from 2, right, spinning the thighs away from each other, and 4, letting gravity really take your sit bones into the ground, is 5, keep floating your ear bones up, longer spine, longer spine. The longer the spine, the more it can twist. Longer spine. Yes, beautiful, Katie, Wendy, Francis, very nice. And now notice any desire to stick your floating ribs forward. You can twist a lot more if you do it, but all you'll be doing is abusing the TL junction. So melt, absorb the floating ribs. That's not a tensing of the upper belly. Good. Now begin to turn, not so much your chin, keep your nose in line with your breastbone. Start turning your chest to the right. Every inhale, do 4 and 5, sit bones down, ear bones up. Every exhale, do a little more 6, floating ribs in, and turn. You can take your left hand to the outside of your right knee. I like to put the back of my hand on the outer knee. That's kind of nice. You can move your fingertips behind your butt on the ground. But just keep very gently and patiently leveling both sit bones on the ground, lifting both ear bones away from the downward movement of the sit bones, absorbing the floating ribs, widening the shoulder blades and the collarbones, soft elbows, turn the chest. So it's easy to turn the neck. It's easy to compress and abuse the lower back. Turn the upper back. That's what needs rotation more than anything. Even if it doesn't look as deep as you could go if you were on Instagram. The pose is correct when the internal principles are balanced with each other. And just when you think you probably can't go any farther, find something to soften rather than work harder. Find something to work less hard in, but without losing any of the principles, and lift and turn the chest even a little more. Beautiful. Take your time to slowly release. Find length in your spine through principles 4, 5, and 6, and guide yourself through the second direction. No aggression, no ambition, just curiosity. What's possible? Where really is the edge? What if what I thought was the edge, if I soften without aggression, is something I can actually move through? Yeah. So I don't know if it's just my angle, but Hinar, watch for hyperextending that right front elbow. Give it a little bow, and that's going to give you softness in the shoulder as well. Yeah, it could just be my angle. Yep, probably just my angle. Good. And when you feel like you've balanced the two sides with each other, come on back to center and lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the ground. Place your feet like you were in Tadasana and then slide the butt to them and lie down. Beautiful thing about twisting the upper back is that it makes it then more available to extend the upper back in bridge pose, which we're going to do next. So, principle 1, press down through the roots of the big toes. Make the outer feet light. Imagine squeezing into a block between your knees. The knees shouldn't be narrower than the ankles, but you should be pushing in against an imaginary resistance. Good. Now shrug your shoulders to your ears and then push your upper shoulders to the floor to extend your chest off the ground. At this point, the only part of your spine that should be on the ground is your tail. Your neck is off the ground, your upper back is off the ground, your lower back is off the ground. And let's make it not even the tail. Principle 4, scoop the belly, curl the sit bones under, and reach your sit bones to the backs of your knees into bridge. Nice. And now the whole game is going to be balancing 4, 5, 6. Send your sit bones to the backs of your knees, and then roll your upper shoulders back and down to the floor. That's actually how you get 5. Yeah, that's kind of the upside down way of getting 5. By rolling your upper shoulders to the floor, you're lengthening the back of your neck. However, the back of your neck should not, the base of your neck should not be touching the floor here. Dome your neck away from the floor. Good. And if by lifting your shoulder blades through your armpits to the sky, you found that your floating ribs are poking you in the skin of the front of the torso, just let gravity take them. That, Marlene, by the way, is the best way to figure out how to separate that action of upper and lower belly. Also, Marlene, keep your knees inside the vehicle. They're splaying out. There you go. Principle 1. Good, everyone. Slowly come down. But please do not hug the knees to the chest, because we're going to do another back bend. What I'd like you instead to do is separate your feet as wide as the mat, touch the knees together, and breathe. Okay, and I'm going to invite us to do one last bridge pose, or if it's in your practice and you're confident about it, upward facing bow, full wheel. So if you're place your feet just like we did for bridge, work your feet and legs just like we did in bridge. If you're going to go into full wheel, place your fingers under your shoulders, elbows in. If you're going to go again just into bridge, which most of us should, just shrug your shoulders to your ears, push them to the floor, and reach your sit bones to your sit bones to your knees, just like we did before. Negotiate 4, 5, and 6. If you're going to go into full wheel, come up onto the crown of your head, then walk your hands closer to your feet, and then press up. Very important in wheel, even more than bridge, keep all limbs inside the vehicle at all times. Knees in, elbows in. Good. Use the roots of your big toes and the balls of your index fingers. Yeah. Use principle 4 to push your sit bones away from principle 5, moving your shoulder blades away from your sit bones. In other words, lengthen your entire back body. And make sure that you're letting gravity take your floating ribs into your spine. Marlene, inner feet heavier than outer feet. Squeeze that block between your knees again and again. Yes. And whenever you need to, if you're on your hands, tuck your chin, slowly come down. If you're on your shoulders, just slowly come down. Now you can gently hug the knees to the chest. Just make sure to push the knees into the hands as much, or forearms, as much as you pull with your hands or forearms. And you can make little circles, massage your back and your sacrum. Circle both directions. And if you'd like, you can take a happy baby. Grab your outer feet, knees wider than your elbows. Do principle 1 on the ceiling. Lots of principle 2, spiral your thighs away from each other. A little bit of principle 5, draw your ears away from your shoulders. It'll make such a nice space in your neck. And broaden your collarbones, soft elbows, bowed elbows. Good. And lastly, if you'd like, we can go into Dvipada Shirshasana. Bottoms of the feet together. Bring your hands under your heels. Grab the outer ankles facing back towards you. Push your feet together. Spread your toes apart. Spread your knees apart. Narrow and hollow your belly. Broaden your collarbones. Exhale, tuck your chin, do a little sit-up. And then very gently bring your toes to the sky and towards the back of your head. Just towards, just towards. No aggression, no ambition, just curiosity. Don't look to one side. Long neck, long sides of the neck. Massage it a little bit. A little more principle 5 so your neck doesn't shorten. Nice, Brinley. And release into Shavasana. For this Shavasana, forget everything you know or think you know. Just let gravity take over. Just let the breath and the heart rest in the earth. Just being. Just resting. And as we rest, the mind will wander. With each breath, each sensation, each sound, the mind returns. Creating a Shavasana that's not a checking out, but rather deeply checking into the body, fully alive to all that comes in through the senses, and yet completely surrendered. Being consciously who you are as the awareness that witnesses the world, the body, and the mind, but is limited or affected by none of them. Relaxing the body into the earth, even more if that's at all possible. Completely surrendering. Feel, if you can, your body and also subtler aspects of your body, the breath, the energies, the mind, the bliss, expanding out with every heartbeat from your center to the universe. Imagine it as your love. Maybe feel it as your love if you do, if it's authentic and sincere for you. And imagine your love expanding to fill the room like it's being flooded with water. And then let it expand even more. And imagine or feel, if you do, that you are increasingly holding all beings in your heart space. Not just a wish, but a peaceful warrior's vow. May my love protect and liberate all beings from suffering to indisturbable, immeasurable happiness. May our practice benefit all beings. So namaste, everyone. Feel free to stay in Shavasana for as long as you want. I love you. Thank you. See you tomorrow for meditation and philosophy. And if any insights arose from the practice and our studies, Principles 5 and 6, please share it in the Facebook group. If somebody starts a thread, you can just comment on it. Have a wonderful rest of your Shavasana and your day or night. See you soon.